Welcome to the Weather Insights Briefing. I'm meteorologist Scott Pitney along with meteorologist Jeff Lindner, and we are recording this on Friday, May 2nd, 2025, around 8:45 in the morning. And we are looking at the water vapor satellite, the low pressure system that is to our north. You can see the bright white clouds there generating more rain. Boy, they have been hammered with rain there in Oklahoma. There's the low right there where you see the arrow. That's going to be dragging a front through southeast Texas later on this afternoon and into this evening. And the model's becoming a little bit more consistent now. So because of that, we are an enhanced risk here in southeast Texas. Before we look at that, though, let's take a look at the activity up in North Texas and Oklahoma. You can see nothing, I don't see anything severe right now, but again, a lot of rain up in that area and that activity expected to spread. And as the air becomes more unstable throughout the day, we've been getting a lot of sun, and we expect to get more sunshine this afternoon. It's going to heat up the atmosphere. And as I said, the model is becoming more consistent, Jeff, with a severe threat for southeast Texas. There's the enhanced risk area. You see Houston there, Austin, Waco, San Antonio, all an enhanced risk, slight risk. So really almost a little over half the state in either a slight or enhanced risk as this frontal system continues to slowly move south. You could also see some heavy rain because these storms expected to be moving kind of slow.
Yeah, so this is probably the first enhanced risk we've had in a while around here,
Yeah.
to include at least down toward the I-10 corridor. We've had some, it's been very active up in North Texas and even Central Texas last night with hail and even a tornado down around the Killeen area. And so this is the first time we've seen this widespread. This is going to be a widespread severe weather risk day. And really this starts after the noontime hour, probably further up to the north, and then it works down toward the I-10 corridor around rush hour into the early evening, anywhere from about 4 or 5 o'clock to 8, 9 o'clock, and then down toward the coast and into South Texas overnight tonight. And so I'm going to step through each of the hazards we have. So this is severe wind hazard. This is winds greater than 60 miles per hour with some of these storms. And you can see in the red area we have a 30 to 45% chance of winds of 60 miles per hour within 25 miles of a point. So we're starting to get up there with our percentages here of the potential for wind damage. Again, I'm gonna have to see how these storms kind of develop as we go into the afternoon and what kind of structures they have. Is it more of a line structure? Is it more of a cluster structure? The cluster structure and the supercell structure, probably with the initial formation of them, would be more of a large hail threat. And you can see we have a pronounced large hail threat here, and this black hashed area indicates significant potential for hail over 2 inches in diameter. So that's the real damaging hail. It's
Yeah.
kind of northwest of the metro here from east central Texas back down towards the Rio Grande River. But it does clip, the College Station area, Austin, Waco, San Antonio are all involved in this. But that doesn't mean we can't see hail down here in along the I-10 corridor, even down toward the coast. The chances are a little bit lower, but we could see some larger hail down this direction later on this afternoon and this evening. And while it's low, there is a low isolated tornado threat today. We saw the same thing yesterday, just with so much instability in the atmosphere. Depending on the storm structures when they first developed, yesterday we had a lot of individual supercells that kind of developed on the I-35 corridor, and those boundary collisions with the outflow boundaries and interactions between those supercells can locally enhance some of the low-level shear. And we did get one of those storms that produced multiple tornadoes west of the I-35 corridor yesterday. We could see that again today. I would rule out an isolated tornado. You can see the percent chances here, 2 to 5% or so. So it's not a high chance, but it's also not a zero chance. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
completely surprised if we see a tornado report somewhere in this green area. But I really think initially starting with a damaging hail threat with the initial development of the storms this afternoon, and then transitioning to more of a wind threat, damaging wind threat as we go into the late afternoon to evening hours as we kind of get more of a line. And I'll kind of show that here. So this is the HERB model. This is, it's been performing relatively well with a lot of what we call this mesoscale activity, these thunderstorm complexes that develop and move across the regions. over the last week or so. And so this is the current situation and matches the radar fairly well, what we just showed a minute ago here along the Red River, kind of this
Mhm.
overnight complex falling apart.
Mhm.
The frontal boundary somewhere embedded in this and kind of shifting to the south. And I'm going to step forward here in time and show you how this kind of evolves as we go through the afternoon and the evening. So this is getting around the noontime hour. We start to see development here locally. This is likely ahead of the front, maybe focusing on some old outflow from the north. So you can see these cells start to kind of develop. And again, like I said, they kind of initially develop as isolated storms. And so I really think, and you can see as we step forward 1 hour, you can see this isolated kind of cell forming. That's really tending to tell me that this is a large hail threat initially,
Mhm.
possibly an isolated tornado threat. And then as we step forward here toward mid-afternoon, you can see these cells kind of start to form up into more of a line segment and a line. So I think the hail threat begins to transition more towards a damaging wind threat, and you can see kind of the same scenario going into the early evening hours, more pronounced kind of line segments here. But there's still here the potential in the right scenario for an isolated tornado or some larger hail. You can see kind of a secondary line forms. This is probably the actual front itself. So this is
Mhm.
forming ahead of the front with the disturbance coming in and maybe some boundaries in place. But this is likely the actual front itself. This is a weak front that comes in, and you can see this activity going ends around 11 o'clock or so tonight. The run does so. Activity will continue into the overnight hours. This is one model. This is one way this may play out. My suspicion is that we're probably going to see a much bigger complex than this is showing, kind of push through the entire area and off the coast, and that will kind of end the threat as we go through the late evening hours. I did want to mention the heavy rainfall threat. It is there. One of the things we've kind of seen over the last couple of days in north and central Texas, these storms develop. Initially, they don't move a whole lot. They're slow moving. They're putting down really heavy rainfall along with that potential hail threat. And so we do get some isolated flash flooding. Our northern areas, so say areas north of Harris County, have had some heavy rain over the last couple of days. We had that complex of storms Wednesday night. We had another complex last night that kind of came down through Montgomery County. Once you get down into the metro area and south of I-10, we really haven't had much rain in the last couple of days. So we can handle some rain in the metro area and down to the south. And this is the forecast for this event for the next 24 hours. And you can see it's interesting that a lot of the heavy rain focuses, again, kind of in the same areas that already had heavy rain. So kind of north of the I-10 corridor. I think this is probably a little low here down to the south. I think these storms are going to move on down toward the coast. And really, I think everybody's going to get at least a half an inch or an inch of rain. And you could certainly see some isolated 2, 3, 4 inches where some of these storms kind of develop and they sit, they don't move a whole lot, or where we get into some of these repeat cell training where storms kind of move over the same areas again and again. I think the best chances of that are early on north of I-10 between, oh, say 1 and 5 o'clock this afternoon. And just before we move out of this, I did want to kind of take a peek into next week. There's a big, slow moving upper low that's going to be digging into the southwest US and over here towards New Mexico by Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. And that's really going to probably produce a pretty active, not only severe weather pattern for Texas, but also the potential for heavy rain and flash flooding. And some of these areas up here in North Texas and Oklahoma have seen some really big rains. We're talking 10, 15 inches of rain in the month of April. We got flooding going on along the Red River, and so this is something we're going to have to really keep an eye on as we go into the middle part of next week. If you kind of look at some of the slow movement of it and all that, it's reminiscent of some of our big May severe weather and flash flood events that we've had going back in the years before. And so it's something to keep an eye on as the storm system kind of anchors down here in Texas, middle part of next week. So this, what we're kind of going through now and this week, may just be the primer, kind of the appetizer for some bigger issues next week. And we're starting to see the responses now on the rivers. A lot of water coming down in the upper Brazos and the upper Trinity basins from the heavy rainfall up here this week. Unfortunately, we just still have yet to see a lot of rain in the Colorado basin
Yeah.
upstream of Austin. So the Highland Lakes are still in really desperate need of rainfall in this area. So we'll see. But this type of pattern with the type of moisture we can have in place is one of those patterns we can go from, drought conditions to flash flooding in a short period of time. So the middle part of next week, I think, is something we're going to really have to keep an eye on, as well as this afternoon. Again, it's been a while since we've seen a severe weather risk of this magnitude down here in Southeast Texas. So have ways to get warnings today, multiple ways. Make sure those alerts are turned on your phone so you can get the warnings when they come out. And this would be a day where I would take them pretty seriously. If you get a warning, I'd definitely be, taking action and paying attention to the weather.
Yeah. So a lot of this could be happening around rush hour time too. So be sure to check your route before you head out and make sure that you have a, clean path home. And yeah, those thunderstorms starting off, it looks like, according to the model anyway, discrete. That's where you get your hail and tornado threat primarily, and then heavy rain continuing and severe weather too, possible this evening. So yeah, good idea. Keep your alert devices handy throughout the afternoon, especially and into this evening. And we'll keep you updated right here on Weather Insights. If we see threats like this, we'll be on with talking about that with our briefings. And then hurricane season's coming up too. So we'll be having more briefings over the summertime with hurricane season just around the corner. Jeff, thank you very much.